Have you looked at Uniswap recently? The price is much more erratic in its movements, as in the volatility went up. That means the market is out of balance. When the price tends to move more, that means that tokens go from one hand to the next. Thus, the current momentum tends to turn around. Let me show you what I mean. Have a look at this here. This comes from Bitcoin Strategy Analytics, so the backtesting platform of this channel. At the top, we've got the Uniswap price. At the bottom, we've got the volatility relative to its last 30 days. When there's a lot of volatility, so when the price fluctuates more than it used to, we tend to see a turnaround in the price. Now we are even higher in volatility. More ups and downs means that the market is out of its equilibrium. Thus, are we going to crash from here? And is this potentially an opportunity? Can we maybe bet on a falling uni price? Or should we take advantage and now sell our stack? Hi, my name is Gerhard. I've been in the crypto space for the last 8 years. I hit my first million 3 years ago, and it is mainly through active altcoin trading. My track record is in the link down below. Over the last 2 years, I published my trades in real time, achieving 47% APY. We are currently with the open positions at a new all-time high. Every single trade is published in real time. We currently have 7 positions open, and this website also updates in real time. So if you don't see 47% but a different number when looking at that website, that's because things might have changed in the meantime. I'm showing this data just to be transparent. I don't think that many people in the space are willing to show their actual track record, especially in real time. Now, altcoin speculation is all about risk versus reward, as in how much potential upside do we have and what do we risk for that. Now, when we compare Uniswap to other players in the space, we might come to the conclusion that there is still an 8x from here. The largest decentralized exchange is Hyperliquid with 16 billion of market cap. Uniswap has only 2 billion. However, those two platforms are very different in nature. Uniswap is for spot trading. Hyperliquid is for perpetual futures trading. So trading levered bets on crypto prices. Over the last 2 years, a lot of crypto trading moved over from the spot market to the perpetual futures market because trading fees tend to be lower. What we see over here in blue, that's the total value locked, or the capital that's currently on the Uniswap exchange. And at the bottom, we see the fees that get generated on Uniswap over time. So that's the numbers measured in US dollars. Now we could make the argument that of course the capital that's on the platform goes down when crypto prices in general go down. So let's have a look at the capital measured in Ethereum. Then we get this chart. Again, not necessarily a lot of growth. After the initial incentive period stopped, we got our crash and then subsequently still a long-term bleed in capital. Yet there are players that are extremely bullish. There is now news that Standard Chartered says that Uniswap could more than 40x from here. Now, not everything that we see on crypto Twitter, or now known as X, is trustworthy. But if you're on the platform and you're looking for regular updates regarding various cryptocurrencies, then feel free to also follow this account over here. So that's at Bitcoin Strat. Make sure that you follow the right account and not an imposter, not a scam account. It's only at Bitcoin Strat. There's no other account that's associated with this channel. Now, Uniswap had a very hard time. This is the Uni token relative to the others market cap. So how did the price develop relative to the market cap of all the altcoins that are not in the top 10? From the top to today's prices, we underperformed by 92%. And we're looking at this relative valuation because we want to cancel out what happens in general with the macro, right? When Bitcoin goes up, most altcoins go up. When Bitcoin goes down, most altcoins crash. So when we look at relative performance, so in this case, Uniswap relative to all other altcoins, we actually see what happens specifically for Uniswap. And yes, recently we are rallying because of that article by Standard Chartered. But will that rally last? Since we tend to see lower highs and lower lows over time. By the way, if those two lines in the sand are any indication of what's going to happen in the future, we might still have 65% of upside. Now, where does this long-term underperformance come from? The answer is tokenomics. Now, this chart, this comes from tokenomics.ai. is actually not accurate. This chart would imply that there's no more growth in the UNI token supply, but that's wrong. We get a first hint on CoinGecko as well, as in the market cap is 2 billion, but the fully diluted valuation is 3 billion. So when there's all tokens floating, how can the fully diluted valuation be larger than the market cap? Again, the answer is that this is not an accurate chart. Instead, this here is an accurate chart. This is the projected circulating supply of UNI over time. The base case, as in if the revenue just stays where it is, if it doesn't grow. What that implies is a year-over-year growth of 2.4%. We've got 20 million of issuance of additional tokens that are used to fund the operations of Uniswap and to further propel its development. That happens every single year. Now, since this net increases the supply, the year-over-year growth is slightly going down, again with the base case that we have an annual burn of 4.5 million. But we could also be a bit more bullish. Let's say the revenue grows by 30% per annum, which of course we haven't seen historically, but let's be optimistic. In that case, the circulating supply of UNI would still grow, but of course the growth rate would be slightly less. Now, those are not terrible growth rates, right? 2.5% per annum is not bad. Most altcoins tend to inflate much, much more. But it still implies that Uniswap has to grow faster than Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin has an inflation rate of only 0.8%. Ethereum also just 0.8% per annum. And in the end, that's all what it's about, right? Price predictions are all just about the marginal buyer and the marginal seller. Will there be more buyers or more sellers in the future? What will be the equilibrium? This here is the UNI token relative to Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that we have to crash from here. Far from it. There is potential to outperform by another 87% if we get some news that go beyond just an article by a bank. But the fundamental question is, what is a fair valuation? Is it 2 billion? And does it make sense that Hyperliquid, so the perp exchange, is 8 times larger than the largest spot exchange? Or is there potentially a value play to be made? This here is the number of creators talking about Uniswap over time. This is still relatively elevated given the current market situation. The social engagements, though, they have crashed. And the social mentions also is not on the right track. What I always find interesting data is, what is the smart money doing? As in, we can split up the on-chain wallets between the retail investors and the whale investors. And the way you make that split is simply by looking at minimum holding thresholds. How much UNI do we have in a particular wallet? Is this just $1,000, or is this $10,000, or is this $100,000? And if the whales, if they are buying, this is in general a good sign. Now, overall, we've got almost 400,000 holders on Ethereum for the UNI token. And here are those charts. So on the left side, we see the number of wallets with 300 tokens. That's the small retail investor, and they are not buying anymore. This is very flat. Now, the slightly larger wallets that have $10,000 worth of the token, they are accumulating. The same is true for the whales. They are accumulating UNI. So the smart money still buys. The small retail investor is not interested. Now let's have a look at the short term, this recent rally. We've got 107 million worth of trading volume on the spot market. And surprise, surprise, there's more trading volume on the perpetual futures market. This is very common nowadays because transaction fees on the perpetual futures are much lower. In general, the funding rate for the UNI token is positive most of the times. In other words, it takes money to bet on rising prices. Most people that are betting on UNI, they have a long bias. They think the price will go up. It costs money to bet on rising prices. We get rewarded by betting on falling prices with that funding fee. That's not common for most altcoins. Most altcoins are hovering around the zero line much more consistently. And we can see that with the recent price appreciation, open interest actually did not go up that much. So this is not just a leverage-driven rally. This is a rally driven by spot buying. Again, another healthy signal. Now, I always like to look at what's potentially a way to time the asset. Can we, instead of just buying and holding it, potentially buy at a comparatively low price and then sell at a high price, right? Something that everybody tries to do. Now, instead of just following the news, it's better, in my opinion, to try to establish trading rules that historically worked well in the past and then apply those rules in the future. My favorite approach is to look at moving average crosses. When do we get a golden cross? When do we get a death cross? And I've run the analysis for Uniswap as well, and here is the result. The slow moving average is on the x-axis, the fast moving average is on the y-axis. Every single dot here represents a backtest, and here is what historically worked the best. The answer is the 18-day and the 21-day moving average. That's historically the best golden and death cross combination. And here is how well that used to work over time. So we've got the Uniswap price over here. We've got the portfolio value in blue. So that's in US dollars. And at the bottom, we've got the portfolio value measured in Uni tokens. So something that very consistently outperforms. Buying and holding Uni would have given us negative annualized return. But following that strategy would have almost doubled the capital every single year. Now, where are we right now with that? Let's have a look at the live chart. Here we go. Currently, the shorter term moving average is above the longer term moving average. We got the death cross on the 26th of May. Subsequently, the price tended to trend down, but we haven't yet gotten the golden cross. So the momentum is not yet clearly bullish. And again, historically, this approach worked very well. And that's not just in theory, that's also in practice. I like to use those kind of trading rules to time the market. This is my track record over the last 2 years. Annualized, we are at 47%. I'm not going to show the open positions here on YouTube. That's for the premium members. But every single trade that I made, it can be verified because I made a Telegram post with every single one of them. You simply just click on those dates and then you will get the reasoning as well. Why did we short a particular asset? So in this case here, this is Luna Classic. Let's have a look at that. That was on the 12th of May. We got a death cross over here. So we shorted the asset after a massive rally. And then subsequently, we of course also closed the position. That's when we got the golden cross. So that's then optimized for Luna Classic. So that was the 6-day and the 10-day simple moving average. But for the Uni token, it's the 18 and 21-day. SMA. And again, that's unfortunately not yet bullish. But yeah, if you want to manually copy trade whatever I do, feel free to check out Premium. There's also an automatic copy trading vault that made 44% last year, but that's exclusive to the annual subscribers. So I recommend just start out with the monthly first, make your first gains, and then potentially, if you're interested, reinvest that later. There's also a 7-day money back guarantee. In case you don't like Premium, just email me over here and I'll refund you, no questions asked. Yes, the rally in Uni could continue, but the momentum hasn't yet been clearly established. While some people might say that the token is not inflationary, in fact, it actually is. And it will even stay inflationary if the project was to grow very quickly. It is very impressive that the smart money, the whales, they are buying more and more Uni tokens over time. And so maybe they know something that the average Joe doesn't. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time here on YouTube or see you on Premium. Link to that pops up here on the screen. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Cheers.